It's David with Varminter Magazine. We're here in Nampa, Idaho at Air Idaho. The owner, Joe, was kind enough to let us set up on his 10-meter air rifle range. And today we're going to be going through the initial setup and use of the Crosman Recharge compressor. Today we're going to be going over the initial setup of the Crosman Recharge. Now we've just unboxed this. It's in perfect shape in transit. And my initial thoughts are, this is a very well-made compressor. It's not something that's really light. I believe it weighs 47 pounds. So, but the carrying handle is very well made, didn't have any issues. The first thing I noticed was the inspection card. So this actually went through, they tested it. And I have taken all the components that were in the box and laid them out here on the table. I've already gone through the instruction manual and assembled the things that we're going to need to get this compressor up and running, which are distilled water. We've just put it in this bottle to make it a lot easier to manage, and 5W40 synthetic motor oil. In the manual it says to use compressor or motor oil. I went with this as it's a full synthetic and it will last quite a long time. I have a funnel here that we're going to be used to filling up the oil, and let's go over the parts that we have now. You get the electric cord, obviously. You have the fill tube with integral filter. Crosman provides you with extra filters that can be replaced here. You have a spare valve and breather tube. Now we're going to use this breather tube. This will go on the compressor motor itself. You have extra pieces, gaskets, parts. Same with here, these are extra gaskets. Now my understanding from Crosman is most of these are only needed if you're going to perform service on your machine. However, in this package it is very important that you remove the fill connection. This is a double male connection, and this is going to be required in order to fill up our tank. This piece is inserted into the filter on either end, whichever end you decide. I'm going to put the filter side onto the compressor. This is going to be my fill end, and you're going to need this male piece to adapt over to the air tank. Okay, so we have all our components ready. The next thing that we're going to do is just go over some of the features of this compressor. This compressor for shooting programs is going to be perfect. It has multiple fail-safes built into this. So when you're working with younger marksmen, for example, on ROTC programs like we work with, you'll be able to have the first fail-safe or first safety feature is going to be for the automatic shutoff based on pressure. This has a regulator which you can turn. You'll adjust the pressure and it will automatically shut off the compressor once that pressure is reached. The second we have is a thermometer. This has a heat-based safety feature in it. Once this hits 90 degrees C, it means the compressor is heating up even though it's cooled. It's going to shut down the compressor. We have an electrical circuit breaker. That will be shut off in the case of a power surge or a short. The final is internal, which is a run time. I believe this has a 30-minute run time, and it will automatically shut off once that time is reached. So to operate, we have a cooling switch. This is a liquid-cooled machine. This is why we have the distilled water. We're going to go ahead and fill this up. And so the cooling has to be on, the pump for that has to be running, and then you're able to turn it on. Now we're going to go through and we're actually going to fill up a tank. Most of the time when you're working with shooting programs, they'll deplete the tank to a certain level, let's say 1,000 or 1,200 PSI, and then you'll just plus that up. You generally don't start from zero and go all the way to a full tank unless it's new. So let's go ahead and let's get this compressor going. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull out this stopper, which is for our water input. I'm going to grab our distilled water, and on the side of the compressor, I want to rotate this so you can see, there is a fill level. In the lighting it may be a little hard to see, so I'm going to rotate it this way so I can get it to the proper level. Okay, the water now on the water level appears to be full. However, what you need to do is you need to turn this compressor on because it's going to pull some of that distilled water into the pump and it's going to drop that volume. So that's a safety check. After we fill this, after we turn this on, we're going to need to recheck this. The next thing that we need to do is we're not going to use the red safety cap that came in this. We're going to use this breather tube, which needs to be installed. And I'm just going to tighten it down to finger tight. Let me rotate this machine so you can actually see where this goes. So right here is our oil gauge. You can see that we have oil. Right here is the breathing rod, which is what I have in my hand. And I'm actually just going to put this on here and install it. All right, we're back. We just did our oil fill. Now, I actually filled this outside in the rocks just because here on the range we didn't want any oil residue accidentally dripping down. However, I have my funnel here, and I like this funnel because it has this small nozzle. If you look here inside the breathing rod, I've inserted the breathing rod back in. However, if you just remove this, just again finger tight on this breathing rod, it doesn't have to be super tight. The funnel that you'll insert, you're just going to take your funnel tip and insert it down into that hole, and that's how the filling operation would go. Again, I used about 250 milliliters, which is roughly 8 ounces. Just trying to clean everything up, make it tidy on the range. So I would recommend that you do the filling outside. Then to insert the breathing rod, it just simply screws right back in, again, finger tight. Now that I have the back of the machine exposed, I can discuss our items on the back. So right here we have our air output. This is where you're going to attach your fill tube. We have the safety valve. Now the safety valve is only used if there was overpressure. This will actually relieve the pressure. And then we have our release valve. So once you're done filling, you'll twist this, release the pressure in the line, tighten it back down finger tight, and you're good to go. I wanted to go over the top of the machine. So I'm going to rotate this back around and tilt it down for you guys to check out. Okay. Up here, this is the pressure gauge that I discussed with the temperature or the pressure setting. This is our thermometer, our thermos, and this will, again, safety shut off once it hits 90 degrees C. We have our compressor on-off switch, cooling on-off switch, our circuit breaker, power cord insert, and water input. What I'm going to do now is I want to cycle this on to ensure that we have the proper level of cooling fluid, our distilled water, inside the machine. So I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so I can see that turning it on, getting the pump primed, depleted some of our water. I'm just going to go ahead and top this off real quick. Okay, perfect. Now we have enough water for safe operation. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to hook up our fill tube on our other end. These have quick connects. So you just pull back on the quick connect, attach it on here. All right. So okay, so this end apparently goes to the machine. I would think that these are interchangeable. Got it. Okay, there was just a little bit of resistance on this new plug. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch these back around. There we go. Okay, so now we are ready to fill up our air tank. So let me go get the tank, bring it up here, clear off our table, and we'll go from there. All right, we're back. I've got our tank hooked up, and the next thing I'm going to do is actually very important, which is put on safety glasses. Anytime you're working around with these high pressure tanks, it's a good idea to have proper safety. All right, we're going to go ahead and open this tank up. And as you can see, may or may not be able to, we're right about 1200 PSI. In our ROTC program, when the marksmen are shooting, they'll deplete the tank down to around 1200 PSI, maybe even a little higher than that. I just want to show how long it takes the compressor to go from 1200 PSI in this case, back up to the normal operating pressure of 4000 PSI. So all of our lines are secure, they're connected, we don't hear any leaks. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and turn on our coolant pump. As the pump comes online, you can also hear the cooling fans. There's a small radiator in the back, so now our fans are on. I've got our temperature, or our pressure shut-off gauge set at 4000 PSI. We'll go ahead and get this filled. All right. Perfect. We've got our tank filled up to now right about 4000 PSI. As you saw, the automatic shutoff kicked in. I'm going to go ahead and relieve our pressure. Okay, so I have a rag right here. This is just a little bit of water condensate that occurs inside of the compressor. Not a big deal. All right, we've got this done. I'm going to go ahead and unhook. And it took about 22 minutes to go from 3000 to 4000. And rough numbers, it took about 10 minutes to go from 1200 to 2000 and 12 minutes to go from 2000 to 3000. I'm going to post those numbers exactly. I did record the times. So this is a larger tank, and this is a 4000 PSI tank, so it is going to take a little bit more time. All right, our final thoughts on the compressor. This is absolutely an outstanding compressor that's really going to benefit our marksmanship program. Whether you're dealing with 4-H kids or local agency programs or ROTC, this is absolutely a good compressor. It is, again, it's very well made. You feel it. When we were refilling this tank, which is a larger tank, this is a 97 cubic foot tank at 4000 PSI. It took a little bit, but the thermostat never got above 56 degrees C. So we were nowhere close to the max operating limit. I would recommend that you do some research and investigate this compressor when you're considering one for your program. And as always, we'll thank you for tuning in, and head over to Varminter.com for Varminter Magazine for more articles, information. Thanks for stopping by.
Action.
Go.